Tensions are high across Europe, across the world. This after, of course, Russian President Vladimir Putin said in a televised message yesterday that Moscow now has the right to strike NATO countries that arm Ukraine. Putin's statements came after Russia fired an experimental intermediate-range ballistic missile at the Ukrainian city of Dnipro in response to Kyiv's long-range missile attacks earlier this week. Ukraine's former military commander-in-chief also saying that World War III has started. And then, of course, this scare in London, a lot of people on high alert. What do you anticipate happens next?
Well, I would say at the outset, I haven't seen any evidence that these bombing attempts in London have anything to do with the Russians. There are many other suspects, radical Islamist terrorist groups, radical left groups. It's not really Russia's style to do this against the United States. So I'm not prepared to go there yet. But we have to focus on the fact that Joe Biden has taken steps since the election to escalate this conflict by telling the Ukrainians they can fire missiles deep into Russia, by promising an enormous influx of weapons before he leaves office. And that's why we have people say World War III is closer, and certainly tensions have increased. But I think at the end of the day, although I think they've gotten worse, we are not approaching World War III because Zelensky and Putin know there's a new sheriff in town in the United States. They see Biden as a discredited, lame duck president, and there's going to be a reaction, but I think there's a certain line that Putin's not going to cross.
What do you think about that, Colonel? I mean, this is scary stuff right here, right? I mean, a top South Korean official saying today that Russia has supplied air defense missile systems to North Korea in exchange for sending its troops to support Russia's war against Ukraine. The United States, South Korea, Ukraine, saying North Korea has now sent more than 10,000 troops to Russia last month alone, some of whom have already begun engaging in combat on the front lines. It sounds like we are on the cusp of a major escalation here.
Well, it feels a lot like 1983, not 2025, which we're rolling into. The tensions back during the Cold War, Lydia, were always high. I served as a lieutenant back then, and it's ironic we're now talking about weapons of mass destruction, acts of terror, potentially being linked to Russia, because that's what it was back in the day. On the issue of Biden, I agree completely with Fred. Fred is correct. I think Putin, Zelensky, they all recognize a new leader's coming. The problem is this: miscalculation. Like in 1983, the greatest danger to any continued expansion of the war is miscalculation. What if a weapon used to de-escalate becomes escalatory? Putin made a very big show last night. This Hazel weapon system we've never seen before. This is the first time an ICBM type system, it wasn't an ICBM, it was an intermediate range system. Lydia, this was the first time it's ever been used in a conflict. And I recommend people go over and look at what happened. Danny Davis has on his website. These are modified and highly enhanced multiple reentry vehicles, MIRVs, and it was significant. This is more important than I think people are giving it credit for. But what I'm trying to say is, I agree with Fred on the fact that things should ratchet down once Trump's in, but we got to get to 20 January. Otherwise, somebody shooting something at a country they're not supposed to could escalate things very quickly.
You know, Fred, you wrote the piece titled "Russia and Ukraine Likely to Ignore Biden's Attempts to Sabotage Trump's Ukraine Peace Effort." You also mentioned in this article about how an outgoing George H.W. Bush and President-elect Bill Clinton, that they collaborated on situations that were occurring at the time in Somalia back in 1992. Meantime, it seems like Biden is doing everything he can, as the colonel said, to ratchet things up, while Trump has been talking about it from day one during his campaign that he was going to bring peace. What do you think? Will they collaborate, Joe Biden and Trump, or will Biden bring us to the brink that we can't bring it back?
That's right. In 1992, George H.W. Bush wanted to send troops to Somalia, but didn't do so before he got the agreement of incoming President Bill Clinton. We may look back on that and think that that was a mistake, but that's what incoming and outgoing presidents are supposed to do. Now, Biden knows very well that Trump wants to end this war.